Good morning and welcome. We are here today to show our love and support for the members of Michael McNulty's dear family. I will open our service reading the words of Mike's favorite hymn. It is from the Christian Science hymnal and is entitled, "In Heavenly Love Abiding." In heavenly love abiding, no change my heart shall fear, and safe is such confiding, for nothing changes here. The storm may roar without me, my heart may low be laid, but God is round about me, and can I be dismayed? Wherever he may guide me, no want shall turn me back. My shepherd is beside me, and nothing can I lack. His wisdom ever waketh, his sight is never dim. He knows the way he taketh, and I will walk with him. Green pastures are before me, which yet I have not seen. Bright skies will soon be over me, where darkest clouds have been. My hope I cannot measure. My path in life is free. My Father has my treasure, and he will walk with me. And now, as a special way to start the program, couldn't be any better as far as Mike would be concerned. We have Mike's grandsons, Michael and Tim Wright, and they will pay tribute to their father, their grandpa, by playing the tune on their French horn. So if they will come up here, Michael and Tim.
We're actually singing.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That's okay. Mike would be so very proud of you, Tim and Michael. Both of you have really followed in his footsteps in pursuing your musical careers. Now, if I got this right, there's only one difference that I can see, and that is both of you graduated from Michigan State University with degrees in music, while Mike took his trumpet to Ann Arbor, where he performed in the University of Michigan Marching Band. That's pretty special. And now, let us hear the words of the 23rd Psalm. Everybody can hear me fine? Good. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Mike and Marcia began each day reading from the Bible and the Christian Science textbook entitled Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. Since that is how they started their day, then let's turn to these books now to seek inspiration and comfort for ourselves. The following scriptural selections are from the Bible. From John. Jesus cried and said, He that believeth on me, believeth not on me, but on him that sent me. I am come a light into the world, that whosoever believeth on me should not abide in darkness. He continued by saying, Let your heart not be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. Jesus continued, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word and believeth on him that sent me hath everlasting life, and shall come into condemnation, but is passed from death into life. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself. Then said Jesus unto them, I am the door of the sheep. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them. To them eternal life in the secret of moments or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Psalms. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Isaiah. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings of eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. I will now read from the Christian Science textbook entitled Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The Scriptures imply that God is all in all. From this it follows that nothing possesses reality nor existence except for the divine mind and his ideas. The Scriptures also declare that God is spirit. Therefore, in spirit, all is harmony, and there can be no discord. All is life, and there is no death. Everything in God's universe expresses him. When speaking of God's children, not the children of men, Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." That is, truth and love reign in the real man, showing that man in God's image is unfallen and eternal. This is life eternal. Is, not shall be. And then he defines everlasting life as a present knowledge of his Father and of himself. The knowledge of love, truth, and life. This is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. Man is the idea of spirit. He reflects a beatific presence, illumining the universe with light. Man is deathless, spiritual. He is above sin and frailty. He does not cross the barriers of time into the vast forever of life, but he coexists with God and the universe. Question: what is life? Answer: life is divine principle, mind, soul, spirit. Life is without beginning and without end. Eternity, not time, expresses the thought of life, and time is no part of eternity. One ceases in proportion as the other is recognized. Time is finite. Eternity is forever infinite. Let unselfishness, goodness, mercy, justice, health, holiness, love, the kingdom of God reign within us, and sin, disease, and death will diminish until they finally disappear. As a drop of water is one with the ocean, a ray of light one with the sun, even so God and man, Father and Son, are one in being. The scripture reads, "For in him we live and move and have our being." Spiritually, to understand that there is but one Creator, God, unfolds all creation, confirms the scriptures, brings the sweet assurance of no parting, no pain, and of man deathless and perfect and eternal. Let's have a few moments of silent prayer, and then all pray together the audible repetition of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. This is a time for our family members and friends to share special memories of Mike. But before we begin, I have a few words that I would like to say myself. I will begin by saying that Mike was born in Mount Pleasant and lived most of his childhood in Shepherd. During most of his growing up years, one of the saddest days in his life was when his dad died. The year was 1946, and Mike was 6 years old at the time. The country was just recovering from World War II and also the Great Depression. Money was tight. And overnight, Mike's mother became the head of the household. She took college classes and got a teaching degree, and she found employment as an elementary school teacher. That job was a godsend for the whole family, including Mike and his sister Nancy. And I know that Nancy is watching this, so that's good. Little did Mike know that when he was 6 years old, that one day he would be playing the trumpet in the University of Michigan marching band. His mom encouraged him at that young age to go get his father's cornet out of the closet and learn how to play it. Well, that was all the incentive that Mike needed, to play the cornet in honor of his father. During Mike's freshman year in Ann Arbor, he received the coveted University of Michigan marching band jacket. And he was so proud of that he even brought it to church to show me the next Sunday. Can you imagine what it would have been like to march in the big house at the University of Michigan before 100,000 maize and blue cheering fans? And I can almost hear him say, "Go Blue." When Mike was 15 years old, his mother remarried. His stepfather was a farmer in Marshall, Michigan. The move to the farm was like being in heaven, Mike said. He loved the freedom, he loved the openness of life on the farm, and he got a great sense of joy in working with the animals and helping out in the fields. One night, there was a phone call from a neighbor saying that the cows from the farm were out on the roadway and heading for town in Marshall. Now, perhaps they wanted to check out the new dairy aisle in town, or to see if the grass were greener on the other side of the street. In either case, the whole family sprang into action and brought the cows back home. Is that right, Nancy? She's watching from a distance from Florida. Mike loved to read, and he loved to travel. In recent years, Mike and Marcia went on bus trips to see other parts of the country. And whenever they could, they stopped at libraries along the way to learn more about the communities they would be traveling through. This morning, when I should have been sleeping, I was thinking about the McNulty family and Mike and Marcia and the 16 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But in my conversations with Marcia for the past week that I would call on a daily basis, and she'd always say, "Well, hello, Larry." And Mike had a favorite quote, and that quote is, "Eyes are windows to the soul." Now, Marcia tried to find out where in the Bible that is located, and she couldn't find it. Well, Mike was very well read, and there is no telling where he heard that phrase, that quote. That is until this week, when it was discovered that the exact words came from Shakespeare, who often found inspiration from the Bible and biblical themes for his plays. I said, wow, pretty incredible. Marcia saw in Mike's eyes his profound gratitude for Christian Science. Mike, I've heard him many times, or several times at church, talk about a former member of the Christian Science Church in Midland, Martin Goldman, and Martin would say that he had a profound love for Christian Science, and I think Mike really believes that with all his heart. Marcia saw in Mike's eyes this profound gratitude for Christian Science. She saw that special look in his eyes when family would come together on special occasions or at the hospital recently. The qualities of soul that Mike expressed were summed up in 2 words: gratitude and love. He was grateful for his family, including his daughters, Machtel, Deborah, Patricia, and their spouses. He was grateful for the love and support he received from Marcia, Robert, and Lori. He loved all his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I can't go through all the names, but I think you understand. He loved his late daughter, Gail Bebermeyer, and she loved him. I think that, I don't remember the story, but I did the service for Gail several years ago. And I think at Christmas time that Mike took a delight in her, and maybe Mike knew magic tricks, but she was fascinated with him, and they were very, very close. He loved the members of his church in Midland. And he loved to stand up on Wednesday evening church services to offer, Wednesday night is a special night service where there is a lesson that will be read from the desk. And then the mic will be open for people to express gratitude. And Mike, if he wasn't the first one up to express words of gratitude, it was only because Marcia got up before him. He loved his parents and his sister Nancy, but there was one person who he spoke of more than once in his remarks at church at that Wednesday night service. And that was Georgia Belle McNulty. That would be his mother. He spoke reverently of her dedication, and her encouragement. She was the source of strength for the family. She believed in Mike, and he looked at her as a very important person in his life. When Mike enrolled at Marshall High School, he met a classmate whose name was Peter. The two became best friends, and that is when Mike learned about Christian Science. He really didn't know about Christian Science before he moved to the farm in Marshall. Both boys attended the Christian Science Sunday School in Marshall, and their Sunday school teacher was Peter's dad. Mike and Peter played in the band in high school. They both went on to get their college degrees from the University of Michigan, where they were roommates. Truly, divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. And now, the mic is open, and I think that Mike's daughters, all 3, will be coming up, and perhaps Machtel, the oldest daughter, will start some comments here.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. it is definitely the support for my family and I. My dad was a longtime member of the Midland Kiwanis Club. Early in 2020, he gave a presentation about himself to his fellow members to help them better know your Kiwanian. Later, he shared his presentation with me and my sisters, and I'd like to remember him today by sharing some of his story with you from his own words. Know your Kiwanian. Family related. I have been married twice, from 1964 to 1981, and in 1989 to the present. I have an extended family with 7 kids, 16 grandkids, at the time 4 great-grandkids, but now I believe it's 7 great-grandkids. I have one sister, Nancy, and my father died when I was 5. My mother was my kindergarten teacher. She expected me to set a good example, which I did, sometimes. My background. I was born in Mount Pleasant and lived in Shepherd for 15 years. I had a paper route in Shepherd, and I won a contest by signing up new customers and selling them magazines. The prize for this was a trip to Chicago. I visited museums and Don McNeil's Breakfast Club, which was on national television. The students at Shepherd High School saw me on TV. I moved to a farm south of Marshall when I was 15. I loved the farm and thought I had gone to heaven because I could drive a tractor. I attended Marshall High School, where my mother taught school. I was selected to take a competitive math exam sponsored by the Kellogg Foundation in Battle Creek. The foundation had historically awarded 3 full-ride engineering scholarships. 1958 was a recession year, and they only awarded 1, and I finished second. In high school, I attended Interlochen National Music Camp and was second chair trumpet. I applied to Michigan State and was accepted, but switched to U of M to room with my best friend Pete. His father was a U of M graduate and the Calhoun County prosecutor, and he was very persuasive. I received a bachelor's and master's degree in industrial engineering at the U of M and was in the U of M marching band. In October of 1960, John Kennedy stopped in Ann Arbor on his campaign tour running against Nixon. He announced publicly for the first time that if elected, he would establish a Peace Corps as an alternative to being in the military. In 1962, I had a summer job at Collins Radio in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. At the orientation session, we were told that President Kennedy had announced a goal to put a man on the moon before 1970. So that summer, we were working on the Apollo project. Collins Radio was the primary communications contractor on the Apollo project. That summer, Danny Kaye flew his airplane to Cedar Rapids and was given a tour of Collins Radio. Marilyn Monroe died that summer. Also, I bought a '51 Ford, which my parents were not very happy about. After college, I worked at Wyandotte Chemicals for a few months and left after a long strike. It became the second longest strike in the country. During the strike, I worked on the railroad. I worked for Dow for 34 years in operations planning. I started in the Michigan division, then was promoted to the corporate area. I was told by a division manager that I raised the average IQ of both the division and corporate areas when I transferred. I was then a transportation associate in the styrofoam business, one of 5 TAs in the company. There was 1 TA for each product department, and I helped to outsource styrofoam carrier management. My hobbies include travel, 41 trips with tour groups, playing trumpet in bands, and volunteering. I was on the board of directors at Cleveland Manor and was treasurer and chairman of the finance committee. I delivered Meals on Wheels for 9 years. I also love to do jigsaw puzzles and have a collection of 50 puzzles, which I actually think is much bigger now. In closing, I would like to say that if my presentation doesn't meet or exceed your expectations, please think about lowering your standards. To share a few reflections and recollections about Dad in my own words, in reading over this presentation again, it occurred to me that my dad became the man of the house when he was very young. I know his love for his mom, Georgia, and his sister, Nancy, was very dear. I also know he held in high regard the man who became his stepfather, Harold Aldrich. I would just like to send our love to my Aunt Nancy and our family members watching in Florida. I know Dad loved you all. Dad loved growing up and going to school in both Shepherd and Marshall, Michigan. Over the years, we've all taken many walks with him down memory lane in these towns. Dad especially loved Midland, his home for over 50 years. He was proud to work for Dow Chemical. He served the Midland community through his active volunteerism in so many ways over the years. He had a sincere love for God and was dedicated to church, belonging at different times to the Christian Science Church and Methodist Church. Dad loved his family and so many others, and we all know how much he loved U of M. I am so grateful for many wonderful memories of my dad, and I'd like to share just one which I feel illustrates him best. When I was little, around 7 years old, I discovered tree climbing. Our yard was full of great climbing trees, but there was one huge pine tree that I particularly aspired to climb. So one day I climbed it, way up to the top. However, once I got up there and looked down, I felt terrified and froze. And I realized no one knew I was up there. But within a few minutes, my dad appeared and quickly realized what was going on. He very gently began to assure me that I was okay and that he would help me get down. I immediately felt better, but couldn't move from my perch. So my dad worked his way up that tree. I'm sure he was poked and prodded by the branches and covered with sap, but he reached me and helped me make my way to the ground. He didn't scold me, he didn't try to convey a life lesson, he just comforted me. He knew I had already learned what I needed to from the experience itself. He was such a patient, gentle, kind, joyful, steadfast presence in my life. My dad was a gentleman. Sorry. I never heard him say a disparaging word about anyone, well, except for occasionally Ohio State. I think probably most would agree. My dad was best known for his joy and sense of humor, his jokes and his stories, that twinkle in his eye, and you knew a punchline of some kind was on the way. Even my last conversation with him in the hospital made me smile. I said, "See you later, alligator," and he replied, "In a while, crocodile." So in the joyful spirit of my dad, and in honor of my dad, I'll close with just two small words. Go Blue.
Well, thank you all for being in here in honor of our dad. We definitely appreciate all the love and support at this time of transition for our family. What can I share with you about my dad in these few minutes after knowing him my whole life? Well, I decided the best way to do it was to write a letter of appreciation to him, sharing special memories I have cherished in my life with him. Dear Dad, I have loved being one of your best buddies since I can remember. As a youth, I remember watching those U of M football games together, playing catch, working on science projects, listening to your music, boating, and goofing off together. In fact, between you and Grandpa Aldrich, I know where I got my sense of humor from. One night when there was a bad storm and lightning hit a tree right in front of my window, I was scared and called out for you. You came in and told me that God was right there with me, giving me courage to face the storm and know that I am always safe in God's love. I was able to fall right back to sleep, but your comforting assurance has helped me through many stormy situations in my life. Thank you, Dad. When you and Mom got divorced, when I was around 14, I knew I wanted to live with you, to help take care of you, and be with you every day. Together, we shopped for groceries, did laundry, and ironed your dress shirts for work at Dow. We would clean the house listening to your favorite albums. You taught me how to keep a daily list of what needed to get done, and I learned from you how important it was to pay your bills on time. You would watch the news every night after work while taking a 15-minute nap while I did my homework. Then on Saturday nights, we'd order pizza with anchovies and watch Saturday Night Live and laugh so hard when Steve Martin and Chevy Chase were on. Your love for comedy also included watching Jonathan Winters, Danny Kaye, Laurel and Hardy, and the Three Stooges. You once introduced us three at a banquet as Mo, Larry, and Curly. We were so embarrassed, but soon recovered, but never forgot. Thanks, Dad. We golfed at the Midland golf course, but we spent half the time looking for our golf balls. We went to movies and went on many walks. I truly treasured all my time with you, Dad. I loved our Sunday drives we took together after church, going where the wind blew, stopping at a unique restaurant along the way. We would eat our meal going over our work and school schedule for the coming week. Your love of adventure has stayed with me my whole life, and I too love going where the wind blows. Thank you, Dad. You loved music, playing your trumpet to the University of Michigan fight song, but we also jammed to the Beach Boys, Ricky Nelson, Bee Gees, Chicago, Buddy Holly, Chuck Mangione, and how many times you made me listen to The Flight of the Bumblebee. You would even let me pick the radio station in the car, and we would both sing together to the songs while we rode in your Camaro. What a pal you were. After my high school graduation, you were supportive when I shared with you that I wanted to marry Russ when I turned 18 and not go to college, but take Christian Science class instruction. You had known Russ since he was a baby and knew that he was a responsible young man and would take care of me, even though he was an MSU Spartan graduate. When Russ and I started a family a few years later, I told Russ that if we had a boy, I wanted to name him after my dad. We both agreed that that was a wonderful choice. And yes, we had a son and named him Michael, who carries on your tradition of love for music and goofiness in his own unique way. I remember Russ and I told you we were expecting another child. I teased you that if we had a boy, we would name him Mervyn, your middle name. He looked at me with a big grin and said, "Yeah, right." We actually named him Timothy after a much-loved cousin of ours. One special thing I deeply appreciated was your love for my sister Sarah and her family. When I would babysit her as a toddler, I would bring her over to visit, and you loved holding her on your lap while singing to her. Thank you, Dad, for taking such an interest in her life. Over the years of raising my family, you were such an important part of it. You and Marcia showed your support of the boys in so many ways, like attending their high school musicals, band concerts, graduations, and celebrations. You loved fishing with Russ and the boys, whether it was at your cottage or the Wright's family cottage. You enjoyed visiting Russ and I when we were camping. The one visit I remember fondly was when Sarah's son Noah was wearing his alien Halloween costume, and you dared him to run after the workman on the tractor with it. Noah took off so fast after the guy while you stood there laughing so hard. You loved sharing this remembrance with us over and over. You have been such a strong example in showing us love and commitment for God, church, family, and community. We all thank you for that. When Russ and I started going to the Midland Christian Science Church, we often went out for lunch after with you and Marcia. A few things I noticed each time you went was that you looked for anyone you might know so you could say hi to them, and you always noticed little kids and commented how cute they were. You also told the same stories and jokes to us while moving your hands in artistic gestures. We loved those visits, Dad. Russ and I especially loved having you and Marcia over to our home. I would try to bake one of your favorite meals, and right after we ate, you would ask if I was going to make coffee. I always made sure I had some to serve with the dessert you and Marcia would bring. Such good times. You loved your family and always wanted to know updates on how everyone was doing. Your family loved being with you, especially at the Shepherd Maple Syrup Festival each year. You would all meet at the Little Red Schoolhouse, and then we would go and fill up on pancakes and sausage. Then we would tour Shepherd with you as you shared stories of your childhood while growing up there. We loved each and every tour and knew how special Shepherd was to you. You and I would often go on a carnival ride together, some scary and some fast, but always with a full belly of pancakes and lots of giggles. I don't know how we did it, Dad, but we did it, and it was a blast. Recently, us three sisters and each of our families all met in Shepherd to honor you, Dad. We all wore blue and yellow from your beloved U of M, and all of us shared fond memories of you. We ate pancakes and sausage and other goodies you loved. Then we all went on the tour walk, the one you would take us on. We went to your childhood house on 2nd and Maple Street and shared stories about your paper route and buying your first TV. Then we saw the house your grandparents lived in, then walked to the Little Red Schoolhouse. We stopped by the drugstore your dad owned. We saw the church you attended as a child. Yes, Dad. We even told the story about the famous alley episode. It was such a healing day for our whole family. While out walking, I saw a memory bench at the park we stopped and played at across from the Little Red Schoolhouse. I thought that bench is a perfect way to honor you, Dad, and support your beloved town of Shepherd, and I am looking into how to make this happen. As you can see, Dad, you mean the world to your whole family. We have so many fond memories of you that fill our heart full of love. The last visit, you visited our home in Elma. You told Russ and I that you and Marcia would be moving to Virginia. Before you left our home, you looked at me and said, "Will you miss me?" I said, "Dad, of course I will miss you, but I am right here in your heart, and you are right here in mine. So we will always be with each other." He smiled. Love you forever, Dad. Your daughter, Deborah Jane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Bliss. I'm Michael McNulty's youngest daughter. I want to start off by thanking you all for coming out today to celebrate my dad's wonderful life. The loss of our father is a heavy burden to bear. You're a source of quiet strength that's missed when you're not here. We take comfort you're in heaven looking down at us all. You will be here through the coming years watching over and guiding us. You are our own guardian angel, and you'll be with us till the end. When we meet again in heaven and our broken hearts will mend. My father was an incredible person. He was not only the best role model a father could be while growing up, he was always supportive of us all. He volunteered in his free time and helped others in so many ways. I remember when I was a young girl, my father showing me a picture of a girl from another country he supported, and he would often get pictures of her as she was growing up. And I wondered back then, why did he pick a girl when he always wanted a boy? I now realize how much he loved his daughters. Driving around in your red Camaro, you'd always joke you look like Tom Selleck from Magnum P.I., and I thought so too. Your love for music, listening to records with your earphones on, but most of all, playing your trumpet. Our trips to Arizona to see Grandpa and Grandma were always memorable. You always bought us a souvenir. My favorite was the purple striped sombrero and going to a coal mine restaurant in the mountains, eating off a tin plate and cups, and the old gunfights at the OK Corral in Old Tucson. The annual Shepherd Pancake Festival and your childhood memories you shared with us when you were growing up will be the most treasured and talked about by us all. My dad was always a hardworking man and an excellent provider. He traveled a lot with work, and after my two oldest sisters left home, it was just my dad and I. I can remember taking him to the airport Dow hangar and dropping him off. He'd give me a hug, told me to behave and when to pick him up. My dad always trusted me, and that gave me a sense of trust throughout my life. He was sometimes a quiet person, but he was a thinker, a good listener, always sneaking in a joke. He was always there for us. I believe that's where I picked up my quietness and how much I think things through, and although I may not be much of a talker, I'm always thinking the best of everyone. When I started a family of my own, we always celebrated the children's birthdays. My dad and Marcia would always show up to the special occasions. I have so many fond memories of him always supporting us. Although I've had a rough 3 years after losing my husband, now you, I'll always remember your strength and your love, which helps me to know I can be more like you. I miss you, Dad. I know you're in a much better place, and I'll always be with us in our hearts and our acts of kindness to others. Our love for family, we will represent a part of you. Thank you for being the best dad a daughter could have asked for. And just a little short poem called Dad's Journey. Don't think of Dad as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets, this earth is only one. Just think of Dad as resting from the sorrow and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Thank you, Dad. Think how Dad must be wishing that he could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of Dad as living in the hearts of those he touched, for nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. That's it. Thank you for coming.
Would anybody else like to come and say a few words, stories that you may remember Mike by? Okay, Russ, come on. I don't know if I can get this much higher.
Well, I have to say I was pretty lucky they allowed me to marry Debbie, because I was going to Michigan State and had graduated by the time we were married, but we had a pretty friendly rivalry through that, so that was all good. One of the memories I have, a pretty good one, was that Mike liked fishing, but he had never tried ice fishing. And he had bought a cottage on Wixom Lake back when there was still water in the lake. And I said, oh, I'd like to teach you how to ice fish. And so he got all excited. He bought a shanty and a sled and equipment and tip-ups to catch pike and poles. And so we were all set to go. And I went out and I set up some tip-ups, and I caught a big pike right in front of the house. I was so excited, and I showed it to him, and he looked at the sharp teeth and how slimy it was, and he says, "I don't ever want to catch one of those. You take my tip-ups." Apparently he didn't know what they looked like. The other memory I had about fishing was he had deep water by the house, so you could fish right off the shore, and he bought a pair of walkie-talkies. And someone in the shanty could walkie-talkie back to the house. And I put my walkie-talkie up in the breast pocket of my snowsuit, and I bent over the hole, and it fell off and went right down the hole. I felt so bad, but I went back and said, "You're only going to be talking to the fish now." And as Debbie said, he would tell us these same jokes over and over, and he would always start off by saying, "Did I tell you the joke about this?" And we'd say yes, and he'd say, "You want to hear it again?" But Debbie wanted me to share one of his jokes, and the one I remember was that there was a guy walking on the beach of Lake Michigan, and he was noticing a bottle on the beach, and it looked like a genie bottle, and sure enough, there was a genie in it. And this genie says, "Well, I don't grant 3 wishes, I grant 1, so make it a good one." And the guy said, "Well, I always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I don't like ships, and I don't like flying. Can you make me a bridge from California to Hawaii?" And the genie says, "Oh, gosh, I can't do that. There's so much concrete and steel and work to do that, and it's such a long distance over all that water. I can't do that. Give me another wish." And the guy says, "Well, you know, I'm recently married, and I've been talking to my wife, but I just can't understand what she's trying to tell me, and I just can't read her language. I want to understand women." And the genie says, "Do you want a 2-lane or a 4-lane bridge?" So I really appreciated Mike as a person. I just have a lot of great memories of him. He was a wonderful father figure and a wonderful grandfather. And I think he's given us all a lot of joy over the years, and all the activities that we've had with him, and his sense of humor and his love of music. It's been wonderful, and I know he's going forward.
That was a good joke, Russ. Would anybody else like to have a few words? Tim? Michael said, "You go, you do it."
No, I'll keep it a little shorter. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim, one of Grandpa's grandsons. I appreciate you all being here. It's nice to know that there are so many people who care about Grandpa. Grandpa lived a life that was full of joy and happiness. When I think of him, I think about how much love he gave to others, and I think of how humorous, clever, and witty he was. It occurred to me while I was preparing this speech that he wasn't a stereotypical grandpa when it came to telling stories of his childhood or the old days. Although I would have loved to hear more about them, I realized the reason is he didn't do this because he wanted to hear about the people around him. He was as unselfish as they come, and he loved to bring a smile to your face in any way possible. There are many instances where this happened with me. I'd like to share a few memories of joy that he brought in my life. The first is Grandpa's love for music, which you guys have heard about. It was something to treasure and inspired me to pursue music as well. He was an amazing trumpet player and performed with the Michigan Marching Band, and I always felt a connection with him in this way because I was in the marching band at MSU for 4 years. I vividly remember playing trios in the basement with my brother Michael, him and I. We called ourselves the Basement Brass. He attended many of my musical performances throughout the years, from my childhood to adulthood. Whether it was a band, an orchestra concert, or perhaps a musical, he loved that he could support me and listen to good music at the same time. I took it for granted, but in reality, I was so lucky to have a grandpa that wanted to see me succeed. Although he loved to make others happy, I also loved seeing him happy. One of my favorite places to go with Grandpa was at his cottage in Wixom Lake. I loved to see how happy he was when he was on his pontoon boat. We did so many fun things on that boat, including rides around the lake and swimming off the boat. I think we tried tubing once, but I'm pretty sure we sank. My favorite activity was going fishing with him, though. I loved fishing as a kid and still do, mainly because of Grandpa's patience with me. He helped detangle my fishing line many times and didn't hesitate to help put worms on the hook. The memories of that cottage still stick with me. Grandpa's humor always made me laugh. As many of you know, he loved telling jokes, and I never grew tired of them, even if they were a little bit repetitive. If you know our family, you know that we have kind of a goofy sense of humor. Grandpa would never admit it, but he was just as goofy as the rest of us. My brother Michael and I found some old videos that we captured with Grandpa, where we would set up kind of a crazy scene, and he loved to play along. Whether we had him play Santa Claus or an elf, he joined us without hesitation, and you could tell by his big chuckle that he was genuinely having fun. I will never take for granted how lucky I am to have him as my grandpa. He was the sweetest, kindest, funniest man, and was a role model for me to live up to. I will always miss him, but I'm so thankful for the memories he left me with and the smile he put on my face along the way. Thanks.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael, Tim's brother. So just a couple quick things to share about my beloved grandpa. Obviously there's the connection of music, which I will always be grateful for him. I have fond memories of being in his basement as a youngster, definitely before I started in middle school band, and he would show me his trumpet. And I remember trying to play it for the longest time and just couldn't get the buzzing motion right, but he worked with me, and finally I was able to do it, and I think that ultimately influenced what I ended up playing, which was French horn. So very kind of happy for that memory. I also remember just kind of randomly in his basement, he had this really cool pool table. And I remember as a kid wanting to play on it forever, and he'd always say, "No, you're too young. You're gonna scratch the felt." And I don't remember exactly what age, but finally when I could play a game of pool on it, I was so happy. And there's one of the pictures out there of me with the pool stick. Just skipping over other stuff that's been mentioned. MSU U of M rivalry was a big one, but I remember that even though I was in the Michigan State Marching Band, similar to Tim, he would come to my games, and I think there's a picture out there of me and him, and he's got a black hood, but you can see a little bit of the blue rim of the hat pointing through. That was pretty good. I purchased my first car from Grandpa. It was a Subaru Legacy. And so that was a really special moment for me. He classically, him and Grandma Marcia, they would buy cars and sell them a couple years later. So you always kind of kept an eye on what Grandpa was buying, and you're like, maybe that's one I might want to keep an eye on. And I remember going to a car show once with him. They frequently would be here in Midland, and I think it was one of the first times I'd seen a Prius. And I was like, oh, that's a cool car. I was like, hey, Grandpa, you ever think about getting a Prius? And he gave me a wink, and he's like, oh, maybe, we'll see. I have a fond memory in college of Grandma and Grandpa coming to see the Canadian Brass with me. That was a really, really fun concert. But by far the thing that I'd like to express the most gratitude for is when I was in college, the first professional orchestra that I won an audition with was the Midland Symphony Orchestra. And this was in 2008, and I've been playing with the group ever since, and still do. And by far my very, very favorite thing about playing with them is the time of getting to spend with my grandparents. We would have 5 or 6 concerts a year, and so every time it was concert week and the weekend, I would for the longest time spend the night with them, and just gave us the best chance to connect and talk. And I mean, I was in college and a young adult, obviously there for a while, so getting all those conversations with Grandpa especially, and it really helped shape who I am as a man and an adult. Sharing our love for coffee, man, we would spend so much time talking about coffee and the best way to store it, and whether it's okay to put it in the freezer or not, and what the best blends were and whatnot. So I'll always remember that. What else? One kind of funny memory, which no one else has mentioned, is one time at a dinner before one of the concerts, we were at Pizza Sam's. And the reason we went there is because we had asked Grandpa what his favorite pizza place was and thought we had heard Pizza Sam's. So we were all eating at Pizza Sam's downtown, and just as the waitress is starting to come up to take our order, someone makes a comment to Grandpa about, oh yeah, you know, we're here to be at your favorite pizza place. And he goes, this isn't my favorite pizza place. The waitress is like, oh, turns around. So funny, just perfectly timed. But I always very much felt his and Grandma's love and support with my musical career and being in the symphony, and always cherished the pride that I felt with them coming to my concerts and cutting out newspaper clippings of the symphony and always sharing them. I will remember that fondly forever. The final thing that I will say that is one of my favorite things about Grandpa and Grandma is how well they took in my wife and son when Jamie and I got married 7 years ago, and I adopted Michael. And one of my favorite pictures of all time, which is on one of these boards, is at my wedding, my grandpa and me and Michael, the 3 generations of Michaels. And that's really, really special to me, and I'll cherish that picture and just that sentiment forever. The very last thing that I'll share, which is kind of fun for me in my musical career, I've played in several orchestras, but I've always aspired to and dreamed of playing with the Grand Rapids Symphony, which is the second best symphony in the state. And been trying to break in for several years, and just this week actually is the first time that I'm playing with them, and I have a concert tonight. And so I know he is kind of proud of that, and I'll be very happy to play that in his honor. So thank you.
Anybody else like to join us? Well, I would just like to say thank you, Marcia, for contacting me to be a part of this program. And thank you, Russ and Deborah, for your dedication to church in Midland. You've moved away recently, but you will be missed. But more important is just to have an opportunity to meet all of your family in the way that we did today. Everybody had so much love for Marcia and for Mike, and to see the success of your grandsons and your grandchildren, and having your sisters join you, Deborah, up here at the microphone, it was a very heartwarming time for me. Sometimes I think I needed a little hanky, but that's life. This kind of is bringing the memorial service to a conclusion. In closing, I would like to read the Scientific Statement of Being by Mary Baker Eddy, which is found in the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. There is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. All is infinite mind, and its infinite manifestation, for God is all in all. Spirit is immortal truth. Matter is mortal error. Spirit is the real and eternal. Matter is the unreal and temporal. Spirit is God, and man is his image and likeness. Therefore, man is not material. He is spiritual. And the correlative scripture according to 1 John. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. We know that the Son of God is come, and hath given us an understanding, that we may know him that is true, and we are in him that is true, even in his Son, Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life. Amen. Thank you.